What is up? I am back from Los Angeles where I played in the 250th YCS and actually managed to top with best deck, Drytron. Out of 3,200 players, I managed to get into top cut, which is top 64. But at the end of Swiss, I actually ended up 18th place out of everyone, which is crazy. I entered with an X2 record. I didn't have any draws, so that put me ahead of a lot of players that did have draws. It was kind of suspicious how many people drew. Made me think that they might have done it intentionally, but you never know. Regardless, I made it into Top Cut. Today's video, instead of going over the deck profile, because I've done multiple on other people's channels, that'll be coming up over the next week. I don't feel like doing another deck profile. This is the list if you want to see it again. But I want to talk about general things about like why I chose this deck and some of the exclusions that I made and cards that I chose not to play, other than going over the cards that I did play. So why Drytron? Well, one of the main reasons is that this is the deck that I'm most comfortable with by far. This is the first deck that I started with when I started the TCG. It's what got me into the game, really. I've always been playing it. I've always enjoyed it. So that's one reason. But obviously, if the format is bad enough, like during a Shizu tier format, this deck was completely unplayable. So I didn't bother touching it at that time. But I felt that at this format, even though we have like problematic monsters such as a Rise Heart, that make this deck struggle. All of the counters to that deck that people are playing are actually like very good for this deck. So what that really means is like people are playing Book of Eclipse, Book of Moon, Dark Ruler, Lava Golem, Sphere Mode, all those stuff. And if you're playing a deck that doesn't lose to any of those things, Evenly is also a big one to mention. If you're playing a deck that doesn't lose to any of those things, you have a pretty big advantage. And that's one thing that Drytron does have, at least with the Chaos Max lock variant. Because as it turns out, when you do the combo, you're going to end with like 2 monsters at most on board. And that makes it kind of awkward for your opponent. So if I have like Herald of Perfection on the field, they might try to Book of Moon it. That's fine. Book of Eclipse doesn't do much. Evenly it's like going to be completely dead. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons that I chose to play this deck as well. Overall, like most of the matchups are decent. Like Labyrinth is completely free, Trap Tricks is easy. Cash is like, I mean, it's kind of a die roll. Mathmech is kind of die roll. It's really not that much different from other formats. Out of all of the top decks, I think like the worst matchup is probably Branded because of the Pistiles that they're playing, and then the fact that it's kind of hard to stop the Expulsion lock. But with other stuff like D-Shifter and Macrocosmos, this deck has always struggled with that, but has generally been decent even in most of those formats up until like Shizu tier. So I thought the deck was going to be pretty solid, and I was right, I guess, because me and another Drytron player managed to top the event. So now that you have seen the list already, and I've done deck profiles on other channels like I mentioned, I wanted to go through the cards that I chose not to play for this event and go over why. Some of them are like pretty popular choices in Drytron, but I think they're suboptimal for a variety of reasons. So the first one, I mean, it's Drytron Beta. This card is just bad, honestly. The only time you would even consider, the only matchup where it's actually any good is Runic, but no, it's really not that good, even then. The fact that it can only summon or return a banished Drytron monster is pretty bad. If it could return Meteonis, then maybe we would think about it, but no. Vanity's Ruler. So I mentioned before, people are playing stuff like Dark Ruler and the book cards, and Vanity's Ruler just loses to those. So I don't want to have a strategy that just loses to those for no reason when you have a complete turn skip and basically an FTK in the Chaos Max version. Joju is a much better normal summon and much more reliable than Vanity's Ruler. Ember Factor Pain, I love this card. It's one of my favorite cards of all time, but in relation to, in comparison with the Chaos Max lock, he's just relatively underwhelming. The only real advantage is that he's Earth, so he can't be Bestial, but I don't think that's enough of a pro to warrant consideration. The whole turn skip stuff with like Nightmare Griffin is so vulnerable to hand traps that it's not even funny, so don't bother with that. Pot of Prosperity has been pretty strong in this deck consistently throughout its lifetime, but in this current format I don't think it's a good choice. Like one of them reasons, obviously, like Mind Hacker going second into cash, but that's not really even the main reason. The main reason is that you can't afford to give decks like Cash another turn. Like they can get so much off of just like a birth. They can like make Zeus. They can grind like really well. Same with Sprite, I guess, to some extent. Less extended than Cash, but still, they can do it. Giving them another turn is just not acceptable. So that's really the main reason that I don't play it. Then Thrust in the I played it in the side deck, but the reason why I don't play this card in the main deck is because it's not good in Drytron in the main deck. Simply put, like if you get ashed or Veilered, whatever happens, what are you gonna set off of this? Unless you're like post siding, you can set D barrier, but if it's in the main deck, it doesn't get you much at all. If Bastiles were back in the format, then it would be a consideration, but I would just keep it in the side deck. It is very good in the side deck though. Then we have, so Ash and Bell, you gotta put them together. The main reason I'm like going kind of light on the hand traps is because I really don't want to play into Gamma or Triple Tactics Talent. Both of those cards are like potential blowouts. So if I have like board breakers in my hand, I don't want to have to potentially lose them to Talents. Like how often are you actually stopping a Cash player with just one Ash? Same with Sprite, like never. It doesn't happen. And with Ghost Spell, it's a little different. Like you can use it against Lab, it's as well. I mean, you can use Ash as well, but Bell is good against Lab, and it can stop stuff like Ibli. So I did consider putting it in, but I think it's like at the end of the day unreliable. I'm playing other routes to Ibli, like with Forbidden Droplet. You can also just tribute summon over it, which I have like a few monsters that can do that, obviously. The other reason I considered playing it was for the Bandit Expulsion lock, but this card doesn't reliably even stop that, because they can just, if they target 2 banished monsters, you can't activate this in response, because it's only if they target at least 1 monster in the graveyard, so they can actually play around it. So I don't think it's even worth doing that. I think if you get Expulsion locked, your best bet is to like set D-Barrier or something like Grave of the Super Ancient Organism and try to survive as long as possible. So I don't think you can actually reliably stop it. Like Ash is only decent against Branded, but even that, I don't know if it's worth. Ghost Mourner is just bad. I don't know why people play this card. It's actually like the worst card of all time. No, I'm just kidding. But it is bad. Like if they special summon Unicorn, okay, Ghost Mourner, okay. I mean, they can just get it back with Birth. So like, I don't know why you would ever play this card, except to maybe burn them from game in some situations. Yeah, I don't like it. Nib is kind of mid. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know whether Cash players would be playing into Nib or like just going for zone lock or just end on a Rise Heart pass. I don't know what they're going to do. So if you're like relying on them to go full wombo combo, then I think it's a bit risky to play this card. And against other matchups, obviously against Lab, it's dead. Against Trap Tricks, they can set up Rafflesia before the 5th summon. Against Mathmech, it's pretty low impact. They still get the Super Factorial, and it doesn't do much. Against Branded, it's pretty bad. They can just negate it with Mercurier. So, and also I knew that Cash players are going to be playing Crossout, either in the main deck or the side deck. So I don't think Nib is even worth playing. And also just dead against Sprite. Imperm is just kind of like Ash, just like too low impact in too many matchups. It doesn't play into Talents, obviously, but I wouldn't. This card is just too low impact to play. With diffused tech slots that Drytron has, you need to play high impact cards. You cannot play like these mid cards. Nib is high impact, but I didn't play it for the other reasons. Then Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse. So like I knew that Cash players are going to be playing Forbidden Lance. So if I'm going to lose Forbidden Lance, I might as well play like a high impact card. Like if they have it, they have it. But I'd rather play Dark Ruler, which is like way better into more matchups. So like if you're playing against Sprite, you don't want these cards like ever. They are so bad. Like they're gonna get negated, or they're just not gonna do enough. The fact that this card can get Ash is like, it's just no. Because I knew people were gonna be main decking Ash as well, so it just makes this card like not worth playing. So I'd rather again have Dark Ruler. Kurikara, sorry, is a much better board breaker than Eclipse. Dark Hole. So with Dark Hole, like when they're playing a Rise Heart, they can like protect it with Infinite Track Goliath. That's something that people ended up playing even in the topping lists. So glad I realized that. It's one way to out Ibli, but like they can either like Forbidden Lance to Ibli. They can, if you're playing against Sprite, they can negate it. I mean, it's just kind of mid. I need something that they can't respond to. And then Shangri-Ira is obviously just going to protect itself. So, not great. Change of Heart, it just trades 1-for-1 as well. Not strong enough against Sprite. It was like very weak. And then, so in the main deck, pre-preparation of Right, since I'm playing Herald of Perfection and Dawn of the Herald, you might think that I want to play this card, but it's actually such a brick that I did not want to bother with it. Because I'm playing Choju already, which fulfills the same role, but doesn't add like after you resolve this card, you have 2 more bricks in your deck, which just makes it horrible. And if you draw Dawn of the Herald, it's also dead. So this card just kind of sucks. E to 10 is just not necessary for any combo. Like, it can make if you already have combo, it makes your end board like a bit stronger and slightly better into Nib, I guess. But I don't think it's worth adding the brick for that. It really is just a brick. Okay, Odd Eyes Gravity Dragon. Here's my hot take. I think this card is actually mega cope, and there's actually no good reason to play it. It's actually very bad. And so the reason is, like, if you're going to play it, the only matchup you would ever even want to consider putting it in is against Lab. Even against Trap Tricks, this card is horrible because you're going to end on Dynamondo, which is 2200 attack, and you're going to try to like summon, like hope they don't out it, and then during the end phase try to summon this back. But all they have to do, like if you're playing against Trap Tricks, they can just make Redoer and attack into Dynamondo and just force it out. But if you're playing against Labyrinth, even they can out it, which is Ariana. So they just normal summon, search Lady, summon Lady, go into Muckraker, revive Lady, which is 3000 attack into Dynamondo, and then your strategy just dies. They can also out it with Lord of the Heavenly Prison by just activating like a set Prosperity, summon Lord, and he's 3000 attack. So this card is horrible. Please don't play this. And even going second, that's even bigger cope, playing it going second. Because like when you activate Meteonis, they're just going to chain D-Barrier Crawl Ritual. So it's useless. Evenly matched. I think in some decks it's okay, but in Drytron specifically, it's not good. And the main reason is that when you're like going into cash, you definitely don't want this card because they're just going to leave a Rise Heart up, and without being able to make Zeus, you'd have no way of outing it with Engine at least. And also, again, there's the issue of OTKing. If you're not going to OTK your opponent, you need to set up Zeus or at least some kind of good interruption, and evenly just makes it harder to do. And it's just kind of unreliable. And for Lava Golem and Volcanic Queen, these are like popular choices in Drytron. But the main issue is that they take up your normal summon, and that may not seem like a big deal, but it actually is. It makes it a lot harder to break the cash board when you're not even able to like normal summon Diviner. And even if you do break the cash board, again, without your normal summon, you may not be able to combo or like really do anything. So I don't think these cards are very good. I think Kurikara, sorry, I keep saying Karakuri. Kurikara is just way better than both of these. Obviously way better into cash, but also decent into other matchups as well. Then we have the Magic Key package. These cards are mega bricks. These are like the brickiest cards of all time. I'd classify them probably as win more cards. Like if you already have combo and you have like prep plus like full combo, then you have this guy as well on top of it, but you never want to draw it or this. And then again, Denko Sekka, same issue. I don't think Lab's even really worth respecting that much. It's not that good of a deck. And for Drytron, it's a pretty favorable matchup. I don't know why I put that down here. But yeah. Twin Twisters, you'd only like want it against Labyrinth. Against Runic, they can just protect. So I wanted to have Cosmic in the side deck instead for Runic, because that's a lot more worrying to play against. Yeah, this card's just not that great, unfortunately. In the extra deck, some people were playing Lingaribo for the Ibli stuff, and people were playing Ibli in the topping lists. Luckily, it didn't happen to me at all, but the issue with if you're playing Lingaribo, you need to play 2 of them, because they'll just rip one of them. So it's actually 2 extra deck slots for this, and I'm just playing Droplet on the side as another way to out it. And it does more than just out it, it also deals with the board. At least against Sprite. Against Cash, it's not great, obviously. Relinquished Anima. Nobody plays into this card, really. Like, people just instinctively know not to put their monsters under the extra monster zone. I don't know if they are consciously thinking about it, but nobody plays into it. The up air is really bad. Like, you want to be able to get the draw with Nightmare Phoenix. That can make a big difference. Like I said, this deck doesn't have much draw power, so having the draw makes a big difference. And also, like, Link Kuribo's graveyard effect is pretty huge. Being able to dodge stuff like Fenrir by like attributing your Drytron will prevent you from getting your thing banished face down. So Link Kuribo is much better, and also blocks damage, of course. IP, the issue with IP is like the same thing with Link Kuribo, is that you need at least 2 extra deck slots for it. It's like you need like Nightmare Unicorn also, because you're not really going to make Dynamondo with this. It's not the best. Or it's not reliable, I guess I should say. Yeah, this is just not that great of a card anymore, at least in the current format. Herald of the Mirage Lights. It's like this card is like decent. Like, it has like a really powerful graveyard effect, but the issue is like you just never want to make it. If that makes sense. Like when you're going full combo, you have like 1 or 2 bodies on your end board. You rarely ever want to actually link for this because you also need the negates in hand. So I'd rather just play Herald of Perfection in the main deck, because it just does this job but much better. It negates more than spells and traps. And the fact that Mirage Lights is only once per turn is like makes it kind of mid. Apolos is just really bad into Cash. They just attack over it. Yeah, there's not much to say there. Apolos is just kind of mid. Against Sprite, it's kind of mid. Against everything, it's just mid. Except against Drytron. So it's good against Drytron, but that's about it. And for synchros, we have these appear in a couple lists. Black Rose Dragon and Don Dragster, they're level 7, so you can make him with Diviner plus 1 normal summon. I just feel like they very rarely ever come up. If you had like maybe 17 extra deck slots, then this one might find its way in. I don't think I'd ever play Don Dragster because I'm just playing Herald of Perfection, which again is just much better. Yeah, those are my key exclusions from the deck for this weekend and why I decided not to play them. Some of them are like okay cards. Like, I mean, if you play Impermanent, that's fine. It's not like wrong necessarily. But other ones I think are just bad, like Gravity Dragon. I don't think you should play them under any circumstance. Okay, that's all for this video. Hopefully I can top some more YCSs in the future, maybe with Drytron, maybe with other decks. Stay tuned. I'll be doing some more content on this channel, including Master Duel. I'm going to release tier basically at full power in a few days. So that's going to be crazy. Yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.